Good afternoon, Democrats. It's great to see so many of you here today. I want to welcome you to our Grassroots Donor Conference, an opportunity to get a lot of great information, to hone your skills, to being able to raise that money. I couldn't think of a more appropriate song to bring us in today. Your love doesn't pay my bills. I need money. And in this party, we got to have both. We got to have a commitment to the policies that create a California for all of us. And we got to be able to raise the resources to be able to do exactly that. So first and foremost, I just want to welcome you and certainly want to thank you for taking time out of your Saturday afternoon to join us. And two, just want to, with so much that is going on in the world, our collective commitment to doing the hard work to make sure that we are building that example, not just here at home, but in many ways abroad. And this is a part of that hard work. So I certainly want to thank all of you for taking the time to join us. You're going to hear from some great speakers. Get some great information and be able to leave with the skills and the tools that you need to be able to raise the necessary resources to communicate with 10 million Democrats all across California. So many of you are already doing this important work. Many of you are already monthly contributors. Many of you are trailblazers. But we've got the opportunity to grow that network even more. So certainly want to thank you all for joining us today and welcome you. The most important part of my role today is being April Verrett's warm-up act, which I certainly enjoy each and every time I get the opportunity to do that. Our controller just led a great process helping to really move our party forward, ensuring that we were funding our party in a way that was in line with the values of our party. And much of that is reliance upon small dollar donor contributors. Certainly want to thank our controller for her great work. And with that, I'll turn it over to the great April Verrett. April.
Thank you so much, Chair Hicks. It's always good to follow you. You are the leader of our party, and as together as a team, we all go together. So lead on, leader. Good afternoon, Democrats. It's great to be with you all talking about grassroots, small dollar fundraising. So much has been talked about in our party about where we get money from, how we get it. And none of that matters if we are not committing ourselves to building the strongest grassroots donor program that we can build for Democrats across the state of California. We need to make sure that the 10 million Democrats in California know that this is their party and feel comfortable contributing their resources to make sure we are continuing to move our party forward, elect Democrats who stand with the values of our party up and down the state at every single line on the ballot. And so I'm really excited about this conversation we're going to have. And first up is a candidate conversation with candidates who have put themselves out there to run for office and have demonstrated that they know how to bring in the money, as they say, really focusing on small dollar, diverse small dollar fundraising. I see you, Bill Monroe, show us the money. And so with no further ado, I want to get right into the conversation. And so I'm going to introduce our panelists one by one and ask them a question. So first up, really great to have from Orange County, Supervisor Katrina Foley. We all know Katrina is a community leader, a successful businesswoman, a working mom, and an attorney. In 2021, she was elected as Orange County's very first Democratic woman to serve on the Board of Supervisors. Welcome, Katrina.
April. Katrina's having a few technical difficulties, but she'll be on in just a minute.
That's all right. We're going to keep it moving and we'll come back to Katrina when she can join us. So I want to go to Karina Talamantes. Karina is the president of the Sacramento County Board of Education. She also serves as chief of staff of the city of Sacramento. She's a small business owner. And if that is not enough to do, she is currently a candidate for the Sacramento City Council. Welcome, Karina. With all of that on your plate, I am sure you are a busy young woman. So thank you for taking the time to join us. How you doing?
I am good. I was knocking on doors right now. I just walked into the house. So I'm a little windblown. Excited to be here and talk about the journey to office and the fundraising component, which is key. It's the hardest part of all. So looking forward.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure. So let me give you a question and feel free to take it in any direction that you choose. Okay. The fundraising ability doesn't always dictate whether or not a candidate wins, but many party leaders and major donors see it as a huge factor, right? It's an indicator of viability. Mm-hmm. As our youngest candidate that we're having this conversation with today, I am sure you have faced plenty of folks doubting your viability as a candidate. Has your candidacy ever been questioned based on your fundraising performance?
Yes, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So one, you're right. Money doesn't win elections. It helps, and you do need it to be a viable candidate, but knocking on doors, every vote matters. And that's where getting on the ground and really just any hour that you can, doing 2 hours of call time a day, 2 hours of knocking on doors a day is so important. But like you said, having money in the bank makes you a viable candidate, and it is an important component of running for office. Also the toughest, asking your friends and family to give you $100, $150, $250 is probably one of the hardest things to do, especially with the cultural barriers. I'm Latina. In my family, you don't ask anyone for help outside of your immediate family. And I know that in other cultures, it's the same. You don't ask for help because that's frowned upon. And breaking that barrier as a candidate, especially right now with Sacramento City Council, where I need $150,000, it's tough. But eventually you just get used to it, and then it's okay, and it becomes part of your everyday work. So I just wanted to point that out because that's just something that no one really discusses, the cultural component of like asking for help.
Oh, that's absolutely real. And it's the conversation that we need to be having. So thank you for bringing that to the fore. I see we have been joined by Katrina. Hey there, it's been so long.
Hello, how are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, it's great to have you here. I gave you this wonderful introduction that you missed it, but that's okay. You know how amazing you are and all of the wonderful things that you're doing. And we're so proud that we have you on the Orange County Board of Supervisors. So a question, Katrina. You won a hard-fought campaign in a red, wealthy district, right, down in Orange County. And despite the many donors in your district that could pay attention, that you could pay attention to, right, particularly those high wealth folk, you are so good at engaging and recognizing grassroots donors, especially through social media channels. Is that an intentional part of your campaign strategy? And if so, if you could talk about that a little bit and why it's important and why it has worked for you.
Well, thank you for that really great question. And to answer it really quickly, yes, it is very intentional. And while many on my team want to take away my Twitter or take away my Facebooking, I actually am posting myself. And I think that in addition to my staff, but I think that what people respond to is that they can hear the tone. They know when I'm the one posting. They know when it's me asking. It's authentic and it's real. And that's why we have more than 2,500 individual donors who contributed to our campaign in the last election. That is why we were able to raise more than $600,000. And then since June, I've raised nearly $250,000 for the re-election. And it's not coming all from these big wealthy donors. It's the $25 a month club. It's $5, it's $10. I even have one woman who gives me $1 a month, and I'll take it. You know why? Because that $1, that's a vote. So I'd rather have 2,500 people giving me small dollar donations, and I know I can count on those votes. And they bring not only their vote, but their family's vote, their friends. So it's really an important part of our campaign strategy. And it's also the way I stay connected to people. I like to stay connected. It's very important to me. I come from very humble beginnings. I was raised by a single mom. I was on the low income food service program, free lunch while I was in school all the way through high school. I'm a Head Start graduate, went to UCLA on a Pell Grant. And so I never forget where I came from. I just was showing our campaign manager, Alyssa, the other day. I have this picture of me in a little trailer that we were living in, 5 of us in this small little trailer, literally the size of like my bathroom right now. And so I don't ever forget that. And that's what really drives the work that I do to end homelessness, help with Project Home Key, making sure people are housed, making sure we are treating people, caring for food insecurity, and of course, making sure our planet is sustainable for the future for all of our children and their children. These are the guiding principles that I live by every day.
Yeah, thank you so much, Katrina. And when that woman contributes that $1 a month, she isn't just, writing a check or having a bank draft. She is investing in a candidate who is investing in her, and she's connected. And I do think that is super, super important and means so much.
It does.
So thanks for sharing that. I want to include in the conversation our third panelist now. Tomas Oliva serves as an ADEM for the 56th Assembly District. He also works with Congressman Juan Vargas in Imperial County and serves as mayor of the city of El Centro. Welcome, Tomas.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for joining us. You're joining us today from El Centro. It is an area of the state, when you compare it to places like Orange County, that is not flush with wealthy campaign donors, right?
That's correct.
Reality. How do you balance engaging the grassroots donors in your community with making sure you have enough resources to fund your campaign?
Well, thank you again for having me all here. It's very difficult for me to fundraise, quite honestly. Our residents do not have a lot of money. There's not a lot of wealth. There's wealth in other aspects, such as our culture, our language, and our food, but our pocketbooks may not necessarily reflect that. And so I have to admit that I have been criticized on the campaign trail for going to areas like Sacramento, LA, San Diego, places that I used to live in, to ask my friends that are a little bit more well off to help me and contribute, because I've just made it a point that I would rather ask them first than ask the struggling single mom or the grandmother down the street, on Social Security, to contribute to my campaign and take away from them when I have friends that might be a little bit well off. But I will say the wealthiest individuals in my neck of the woods are conservative farmers. And so individual donors is a little bit more of a struggle for me out here.
Yeah, thanks. So Katrina, this next question is for you, but Karina and Tomas, I really want this to feel like a conversation, so feel free to jump in if you'd like to. Supervisor, female candidates on average raise a 70% greater share of their funds from small dollar donors than their male opponents do, right? You all, female opponents, right, rely more heavily on small donor donations than the guys, just to be clear. Does that statistics, resonate with your experience as a candidate? And if so, like, what do you think that means? And how do we apply that as we are thinking about building our program, not just in the party, but in our counties and as candidates?
You know, that it does resonate with me. And I see, you know, I look at all the finance, the 460 reports, and I mine those to see where I can target my phone time. And what I see is somebody will give me $250 and they'll give somebody a male candidate $2,000, right? And so then I wonder, well, what's the difference? Look, I'm doing the work. I'm actually making a difference every single day in people's lives. It's actually a better investment in many times to invest in my campaign than in some of these races that they're investing in that they don't have any real connection to. So how do we fix that? I don't really know the answer to that. I just keep calling. Persistence, that's what I say. Persistence pays off. Sometimes you get, you break it, but it is harder for us as women to get those big dollars. And I'll tell you, when I first started doing this, and I'm 25 years as an employee rights attorney, I'm used to asking for money, right? In a different context. But when you are calling people and asking them to give you, our max out here is $2,200, to give you $2,200, it just feels wrong. It feels like that's too much. You're not worthy. So it has taken me a while to overcome that and just ask, because what are they going to say? No, I'm only going to give you 100. Okay, well, it's 100 more than I had yesterday. So I think what my advice to any candidate out there, male or female, is to just really just ask, because all they can do is say no.
That's right.
Or give you less.
I say all the time that when we are thinking about small dollar fundraising, and you may see someone and we think, oh, they can't afford it. How dare I even consider asking?
Right.
I refuse to take someone's power away from them, right? It is their decision to make, not ours to make a decision for anyone. So ask the question and give them the power, right, to make a choice for themselves. So ask. Yep. Don't not ask the question. Tomas.
Yes, no, I just wanted to say and to thank Supervisor Foley for sharing that story, because I'll be honest, there's no way that I could know what Supervisor Foley or Ms. Talamantes is going to go through, because I don't walk in their shoes. And so I think the perspective that they just shared, I may never know because of my privilege, right? I may never experience it. And so I may not have known that that existed. And so I just have to say thank you for sharing that. And I apologize for the disparity in the donations that exist. Yeah. But I did also want to add and piggyback off of something that Ms. Talamantes said as far as culture. As a Latino myself, right, I was raised not to ask for money. It's a sign of weakness. It's a sign of a failure, right, when you're going out to ask for somebody. But one thing that I've learned through my mentors is that you almost have to readjust your mindset. You have to recalibrate in that and remind yourself that as you're asking for money, you're not asking for yourself. You're not asking so that you can keep, pay your light bill and whatnot. You're asking for money for the cause. You are just a face of that cause. So you're asking for the movement. And once you accept that and when you believe in the movement that you're trying to do and you're asking money for that movement, it feels empowering. To be able to ask. And I think that's what I've had to readjust in my mindset in order to get to that point where I've overcome the embarrassment of asking for money.
Yeah. And in that vein, Tomas, candidates of color raise on average 67% greater share of their fundraising comes from small dollar donors than their white candidate counterparts do. Would you say that trend has been reflected in your campaigning?
In my neck of the woods, I mean, predominantly we do have Latinos and people of color here. But I would maybe that statistic might be more accurate in other parts of California, because again, my conservative counterparts out here have less donors, but with deeper pockets.
Mhm.
I might have a wider net, but the donations are smaller. And so we might be an outlier in the overall state. And so I would say that that might be true in other parts of California.
Yeah, thanks. And sticking with, what's it like to be, a woman of color, running for office. Karina, if I may, we know that the typical major donor is usually a white guy, right? They're white, they're male. I know what it's like, being a woman of color, right? Who has to fundraise, who has to put ourselves out there. But I'm hoping you can talk about what it's like being in meetings or at fundraising events with major donors who you don't share, or I don't want to make assumptions, but who you likely don't share a lot in common with. It looks like Karina cannot unmute herself. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. And I think that the panelists kind of hit it accurately. I get 250. My people I know filings show that they gave the man 1,000. Why do I get the 250? I was expecting 1,000. Also, I got to be better about saying, give me the 1,000, and being so direct about it is tough, is so tough, but it's what we got to do to win this race. And it's not about me, it's about the people that I'm gonna be able to serve. When you're running for office, you run as a family. You don't run as yourself, you run as with your partner, with your kids, with your pets, with your family. And it really is it's not a one-person team. As a candidate, we got to knock on those doors and we got to get the dollars, and we got to get the endorsements. But at the end of the day, it really is about the people. And I treat everyone the same.
Yeah.
Regardless
Can
of
I
whether
follow up on something that Karina said that I think
Sure.
really hit when she said you have to be direct. And I do think that is part of the disparity. It's on the receiving end. Sometimes, especially if you're talking to a male donor, they're not used to women being so direct. It's normal for a guy to make the bro call, right? But it's not that normal for them to get a call. And sometimes I think women, and maybe Karina can speak to this, I think women sometimes we feel that we're not allowed to be that direct. And you just really have to find it deep inside to overcome it. I know sometimes I'll be on call time and I'll be calling through all these women and it'll be great conversations and everybody's supportive. And then you hit kind of a row of supportive men, but maybe not as willing to just hand over the checkbook, right? And so it's a lot harder. But that sense that being direct is not really acceptable still in this society, which you would think it would be by now, right? Karina, I don't know if that's your experience.
No, it is. And it's like, you have to be more this, you have to be more that, you have to be more this. And it's like, okay, well, I will be more direct on the dollars. I'm also not going to change as a person. Also, I will do the second text, third text, and the fourth follow-up call. I have a list of elected officials, of associations, of labor unions, and of community friends. My community friends list is like 400 people that I've called. I call everyone on my cell phone. If I have your contact information, I will be calling you for dollars. That's just the reality of it. So, it's just part of the job. It's hard though. It's really hard. And we need more people, more women and more people of color to get up in the ranks too, because we got to build a war chest of dollars to support one another. It's really tough.
And we have to support each other too. I really try everything I can to lift up those that are running, that are newly running, that are in our community. I donate to everybody that's in my district because I want them to know that I'm supporting them, not just with my name, but with my investment. I'm investing in them. And so I think as elected officials, us that are more experienced and have been doing it for longer, more of us need to do that. More of us need to invest in our local candidates and support them.
Great. So I'm going to throw a question out, and all three of you can feel free to jump in. In federal elections, we know that people of color account for only 10% of the individual contributors. How do we empower our brothers and sisters and non-binary siblings of color to start investing in campaigns and candidates that speak to them, right? Particularly as we are trying to overcome the cultural barriers that we talked about.
Well, I can speak to this if it's okay. I'm
That's
not a person of color, but I am, I will say, somewhat responsible for flipping the Costa Mesa City Council from an all Republican and me to now a super majority, 6 Democrats, Latino majority city council. And yes, and we did that. And here's what we did is that I literally went out and identified candidates that I thought would be helpful and could win. And that intentionality has to come from those that are already in office. I mean, we all who are in office, we have to do the hard work of identifying candidates that we think can win, and we have to support them, and we have to walk for them and call for them and fundraise for them, because new candidates, it's hard, especially if you're a person of color running for the first time. So I think all of us have to chip in and help.
Thank you, Supervisor. That is what being an ally looks like, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. April, so the question being is how do people of color
Yeah, how
contribute to the federal level?
People to start being small dollar contributors when it's just not the norm in our communities of color?
Yeah, you know, the first thought that came to my mind is connection.
Mhm.
and having our folks on the ground closest to the community level as possible to understand how higher levels of government impact them. And I think that disconnect is probably what creates the reason why they're not contributing, whereas they're probably most likely to see elected officials such as myself, Supervisor Foley, and soon Ms. Talamantes, as opposed to our congressman, right? And so their contributions are going to go to somebody that they see or hear from directly a little bit more often. And so it's probably up to us, the party, elected officials, to make that connection and to help bridge that gap a little bit more so that they can feel more comfortable as to why they're going to make that sacrifice and contribute.
Yeah, great. So Karina, if I can, our last question, I'll start with you, but again, Supervisor and Mayor, please feel free to jump in. Karina, young donors may be one of the biggest untapped resources for fundraising. Look at her, she's on the go. I love it. Young donors may be one of the biggest untapped resources for fundraising. In 2018, 1 in 5 young people said they had never contributed money to a campaign, but maybe they would consider doing so if they were given the opportunity. In your experience, what works when you're trying to inspire and empower young people to make their first political donation?
Young people get honored and kind of flattered that you're asking them for money. A lot of my donors are young people that, you know, work at the Capitol or work in local government, or also Sacramento County Young Democrats, making it up. And they're just excited to invest and be at this next phase in life. So go ahead and ask. And it's $5, it's $10, sometimes $100 sometimes. You never know. It's always asking. And I don't know, I made my first donation as a 28-year-old. So it took me a while, but it was someone that I was just inspired by. And that's what it took. So go ahead and make the ask, even if they're small dollars. People will be flattered.
All right. And Karina, you go out there and you get your hustle on, girl.
Thank you.
You know, if I could add to that comment, and that is that I remember when I was younger, somebody asked me for money, and I said, sure. I think I might have given like $20 or something like that. And the way I rationalized it in my mind was, these $20 are probably going to help you more. And that's just one less six pack for me one day, one Friday night. It's like, oh, well, whatever, I'll move on, right? I'll live with it. But I think that now that I'm a little older, I've kind of understood that there's a balance between time and money. And so even though there might be an 18 to, 34-year-old, 18 to 35-year-old who may not have a whole lot of money and is still asking themselves, can I afford to give this donation? You know what? They might have more time. So they may join me to go knock on doors, and that's the way that they contribute, as opposed to submitting a check. And so sometimes, you can ask for money or you can ask for time.
Yeah.
Well, we just, Alyssa and I, we were just at UCI talking to the Young Democrat Club there, and we asked for their input on a whole variety of campaign related matters. And I mean, I think hosting coffees where you sponsor the coffee and they come, and sometimes they'll donate $5, sometimes 10. Happy hours are very popular. Also, what they shared with us was, they really care about like issues. Young people really do want to go deeper into the issues. And I know there's this perception that young people, they don't have a lot of patience or time, but I think if you're talking to young people who are engaged, they really want to go deeper. They want to have those one-on-one conversations. More than one of the students at UCI told us that they wanted to have access to the candidate, not just, like see them from afar, but actually have that dialogue and that Q&A with the candidate. I think that's really valuable.
Really great advice. Thanks, Katrina. So in our last few minutes, I'm going to ask each of you for your closing remarks. Give us your best pitch. Like, what works for you when you are on that phone doing your call time? Let's hear it. Supervisor Foley, let's start with you.
Okay, well, my pitch is, hi, I'm Katrina Foley. I'm your county supervisor. I'm just calling to give you an update on what's happening with our campaign. We're in re-election. I can't believe it. Looking forward to continuing to serve. We've done so much to end homelessness, create a climate action plan, serve our veterans, and most importantly, create jobs and protect our small businesses. So please invest in us. I'd love to have you come to my event this week. It's on March 9th. And my friend Sean Burke is hosting at his law firm. Can we count on you for $1,000?
All right, you all that are down there in Orange County, I think you better be at Sean Burke's house at that event on March 9th. Thank you so much, Supervisor Foley. It's good to see you as always. Tomas, give it to us.
Yes, well, I cannot follow such a great pitch, but I do want to highlight something that Supervisor Foley did, and that is she brought everyone together. She said, we did this, right? He brings them into where her success is their success. And then she highlights some of the things that was accomplished. And then at the very end, again, she was very direct. She said, can I count on you for $1,000? But here's something that people will miss. And that is, you need to be comfortable with awkwardness. And that is when she says, can I count on you $1,000? She cut herself off. At that moment, that space, it's uncomfortable, but you got to wait for that person to react. And you got to wait for that person to say, sure, or say, well, maybe I could do $750 or something like that. And that's okay. But don't self-negotiate with yourself. Put it out there and see where it goes. So I'll leave it at that.
That's great. That's really great. And Karina, I don't know if you are in a position where you can give us that pitch.
Well, one, I am learning from this call myself, and it's serving as inspiration to dial for dollars after this community event that I go to. And two, I agree, just being uncomfortable, asking for money is uncomfortable, but we're asking for money for a good cause, to run the campaign and to serve the people of Sacramento. And that's what I do tell people on the phone. And every single conversation is different, whether it's a college friend or, a stakeholder in Sacramento. Every single one is different. But I guess my pitch, Jesus, I can't really think right now because I'm inspired. I'm not going to lie. I'm inspired. So I'll just leave it at that. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to present with this amazing panel. Thank you.
I think we have already learned so much do your call time, hit your doors, break down cultural barriers, be your true authentic self, and connectedness works. And then don't out negotiate yourself. Ask for what you want and what you need. So thank you all for helping us start this conference off great. So much learned, so much richness. Thank you all, and good luck in your campaign.
Thank you. We're actually getting on call time right now. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Camille?
Hi, thanks April for leading us through that amazing conversation. And thanks so much to all of our panelists for joining us today. I'm Camille Alcala, I'm the finance director for the party. I am very excited to introduce our next special guest. Bill Wong is the senior political advisor to California State Assembly Speaker Anthony Rendon and the political director for the California Assembly Democrats. He is an expert in California politics and led the efforts that resulted in electing the largest Democratic supermajorities in the state assembly in modern history. We are very lucky to have him here today, and he's going to walk us through some of the campaigns that we should be keeping an eye on in California this cycle. So if you have questions during Bill's presentation, please put those in the chat, and we will go over those during a little Q&A section after he runs through all of his information. Is Bill on? Hi, Bill. I will hand it over to you. The floor is yours.
Hi there. It's good to see you. It's good to see everybody. It's a great session by April Verrett previously. It's great to hear you guys talking about small dollar donors. I'm a big advocate of that. And many of our races that we were able to pick up and be very competitive last cycle were because of small dollar donors. So Camille, I think I had some slides that I sent to India. I don't know if you want to put those up or if I should try to share my screen or.
Yeah. Oh yeah, here they come.
Awesome, great. So you can go to the next slide and I'll go through this pretty quickly because I think, the Q&A is usually pretty, the best part of it. And there's a lot of kind of boring stuff with regard to post redistricting, which was kind of what I was asked to talk about, like what kind of situation we're in. And we're in a great situation because, like I said in an interview recently, that if 70% of your pie is apple, you're most likely going to cut a slice of apple pie. So obviously Democratic numbers in California are super strong, and as a result of it, we really came out of redistricting very competitive with our legislative supermajorities, very safe. So prior to redistricting, we have 60 Democrats in the state assembly and one no party preference and a handful of Republicans that are 19 Republicans. And then after redistricting, there's going to be a lot of campaigns, but basically 60 of the seats of the 80 seats in the assembly are safe Democratic seats. These are Democratic seats that were won by Gavin Newsom in 2018 by 55% or more. 18 is what we consider kind of a low watermark because it's a low turnout gubernatorial election as opposed to presidential. So we thought that any seat that Gavin Newsom won in 2018 by 55% or more would be, as defined, a safe Democratic seat. And then we have an additional 6 swing seats on top of that. So the Democratic majority in supermajority in the assembly could actually grow from 60 to 60 plus more, depending upon how those races go. And the 60 safe Democratic seats that we have don't even include 2 our incumbents that are currently well positioned to win re-election. Ken Cooley and Brian Mainshine. Ken Cooley in Sacramento County and Brian Mainshine in San Diego County. They both have relatively competitive races, and they lost a few points with regard to Democratic registration, but we think that they're well positioned if they can get the support of party activists and donors all across the state and nation trying to hold on to California's progressive agenda. However, one seat to look at and to be focused on for re-election is Alex Lee. He's a solidly progressive member of the Democratic caucus, but he is being challenged in the primary by 2 other Democrats that are somewhat to the right of him. So Alex Lee has forsworn any corporate donations. He's running a grassroots campaign. He won his campaign 2 years ago as a grassroots candidate. He's probably one of the most, if not the most progressive member of the State Assembly Democratic Caucus, and he's going to need a lot of help fighting off the primary challenges from his from Democratic candidates who are coming from the right of where he is on the political spectrum. And in the Senate, currently there's 31 Democrats and 9 Republicans. The Senate is a little bit different than the Assembly, because in the Assembly, all 80 seats are up. In the Senate, only half of the seats are up. I believe it's the even numbered seats. But coming out of redistricting, they have 28 safe Democratic seats, 3 swing seats, and then 9 safe Republican seats. We think that they'll be able to, get up to 30 this next cycle, and then 31 in the following cycle once one of the seats that is in the transition period between the odd and even years comes back online. And then in the Congressional House delegation, we actually lost 1 seat overall because of population decline. The Assembly and the Senate are both held at 80 seats for the Assembly and 40 seats for the Senate, whereas the population of the California delegation is based upon overall state population. Because of the undercount, we lost 1 seat. However, just to note on that, we could have lost up to 3 seats, but because ironically, the Republican efforts to undercount the census actually hurt Texas and some of the other red states, so that we were able to only lose 1 overall seat in the California House delegation. So out of those 52, 41 of those are deemed safe, basically the same math with regard to that were won by Gavin Newsom by 55% or more, 3 swing districts that are between 50 and 55%, and then 8 safe Republican seats. So with regard to the Senate, I think the only really competitive Senate seat that they have right now is the Melissa Hurtado seat. She is running against, I believe, Nicole Parra as well, who is a Democrat. But I think that the rest of their seats are relatively safe for now. There are going to be some less safe seats in 2 years from now, when some of the other seats that are in more Republican-leaning districts are up. And then for the Congressional House delegation, basically there are 3 Republican seats that we have a tremendous opportunity to flip. That's Mike Garcia in the Santa Clarita area. There's Michelle Steele in Orange County, and David Valadeo in the Central Valley. So those are going to be highly competitive, great opportunities for us to flip seats. I think that congressional holding the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate is probably the top national priority for Democrats this cycle. Camille, can we go to the next slide? Before I do the main takeaways, does anybody have a question in the chat with regard to the redistricting stuff? I know that somebody had posted about swing votes ? And the swing votes are districts that we feel that were between. Actually, Melissa Hurtado is no longer running against Ana Caballero. She is moving to another district that is an open Senate seat that was just announced recently. So the swing votes are the ones that are between 50 and 55%. We don't really go D+ in a lot of ways. Sometimes that's the Democratic voter registration advantage is a little bit misleading, just because there are some people that are registered that don't necessarily vote the same way. Similarly, Republicans that don't vote. So we kind of base it upon candidate performances is how we kind of judge the seats. CD3, I'm not sure which seat is that, if you want to put it in the chat. Yeah, it's highly possible that CD3 is in a purple toss-up. There's a lot of toss-up ones that are out there that I think that are can be really competitive. It really depends upon the atmospherics and how things shaped up. So I think one of the big impacts of this cycle that is yet to be tested is how typically midterm gubernatorial elections have lower turnout than typical general elections, but we were going to all mail ballot. So what we've seen is our mail ballot has really increased our ability to turn out Democrats, although it's turning out a lot of low-informed Democrats and new Democrats, so they don't really have a very predictable voting behavior. See, so McClintock changed to CD5. We have Dr. Kermit Jones running. Yeah, I mean, I think that, those seats are seats that we should contend, but I don't have a good idea of how viable they are. But I do think that, for example, the Democratic candidates that are running Garcia, Steele, and Valadeo are going to have a lot of resources because they are the top tier with regard to what DCCC is looking at. So the ones that are underneath those top tier candidates are going to have a lot harder time fundraising. So that's where a lot of small dollar donors are going to have a tremendous amount of impact. So the main takeaways are, obviously the state legislative supermajorities are in a very strong position to hold just based out of redistricting. But that also means that there are many new open seats. I think in the assembly, we've had 18 either retirements or resignations. So there are 18 open seats that are available, and there are going to be many crowded primary races. So there's a lot of competition for resources out there because there are Kevin Kiley is my favorite person. Sorry, I'm just reading in the chat. But so competition for resources is highly fierce because there's so many primaries. There are some primaries that have 5 to 6 different candidates in it, and there are primaries all over the state. So the typical sources of fundraising are very difficult. Democrats rely heavily on labor as donors, but because there's so many primary races and because there are ballot initiatives that are coming up, and because of the recall election, a lot of the war chests have been spent down. So small dollar donors and new donors are critical to the success of candidates this cycle. The money allows campaigns to communicate effectively in a crowded cycle. I mean, we're competing in a cycle where there's going to be so much noise from ballot measures, from heavily crowded primaries, and also because people's attention spans are diminishing as the day goes by. So, and then the cost of mail is more expensive now than it was before, just because of printing and postage, and then supply chain issues. So we're going to have to raise more money than we've ever had in order to communicate effectively with voters that are out there. But keep in mind that our races, the most effective races, are hyper parochial, which means that local issues, local messaging, will predominate and be much more effective than national messaging. Although, we see a lot of national messaging. If you're campaigning on the local level, it's best to pivot to local issues and local messaging so that it doesn't get too far away from the constituencies that you're talking about. I have a question in the chat that says, is Kiley actually as smart as he presents, or is something missing in regards to organizing and narratives? Well, he got like 3% of the recall vote. So, I mean, I don't think he's necessarily smart. I think that, he used the recall to basically build a base of small dollar donors. I think it was very effective. I think that, that's one way that you can use social media is to, to develop a following so that you can then go and then approach them for donations. And I think that definitely was what his intention was for running for Congress, because the limits on Congress are much lower. For example, the max donation to a legislative race is $4,900, and the max donation to congressional is $2,000, and then corporate donations to congressional candidates are prohibited. So it's a lot easier to raise money on the state legislative side than it is on the congressional. So if anybody is wanting to run for congressional, they really have to spend a lot of time trying to build up a large small donor base in order to be competitive, because they have to get a lot of their donations outside of the usual political action committee donations that legislative candidates can take advantage of that they can't. So I think that Kiley was actually quite savvy by trying to build up a very large email list and then exploit it to raise money for his congressional. I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin Kiley is fundraising wherever he goes. He's he's young and he's got a lot of time to do, to build his career. He's probably going to be, I mean, I was here when Tom McClintock was young, and I see that Kevin Kiley is using the same playbook. So he definitely is a Republican to watch, and somebody that should be on our radar as probably the next generation of where Republican leadership and Republican messaging is going to come from. So with that, I mean, ultimately the ballgame, one of the questions that I think India gave me is like, if donors and the people that are on this call had $100 to spend or to invest in races, where should they invest? I would say the control of the U.S. House and Senate is the ballgame. As you know, that was not approved by my boss or by the Senate. I'm sure that they would love me to say that you should donate to all legislative races, but to be absolutely honest, I think for the Democratic agenda, we really have to double down on our donations to help make sure that we hold all of our House seats and the U.S. Senate seats, and if not, pick up those seats so that we have larger margins as we go to judicial judicial confirmations and federal level types of issues like choice that we have to fight on. I think that infighting and misinfo really suppresses Democratic voter turnout. We've seen research that shows that the Republicans are very adept at using false flag operations to create progressive-looking kind of avatars on social media to spread misinformation about Democrats and to pit Democrats against each other. So we have to be very cognizant of that. My rule about Democratic infighting, I think that it's healthy to have differences of opinion within the Democratic Party, but my role is what I call the family rule. Like me and my siblings fight all the time, but we fight inside the house. We don't fight outside on the sidewalk. So if you have differences of opinion, I think you should definitely air them with your colleagues internally. But not necessarily in the open arena of social media, because it's something that the Republicans can exploit. And then I'll do the last point, and then I'll go into some of the chat stuff. My main takeaway in the last point is donate, raise, organize, and then donate some more. It's about getting emails. It's about engaging people to invest. Tweets by themselves do not win campaigns. It's about getting the dollars. So if I'm pissed off about something, I'll just make a donation, even if it's $10. Even if it's $5, that's how I express my anger at what I see when Kevin Kiley tweets, and I feel that it's a lot more productive and a lot less aggravating than tweeting back at Kevin Kiley. So with that, I'll go to the questions in the chat. Could you give a call to prospective candidates in 81? Jack Hathaway, sure, absolutely, cool. I think we're actually going to be talking to Jack sometime soon, so that'll be good. I was very happy to help Elizabeth Betancourt run against Megan Daly last time, and going back to the small dollar donation thing conversation, Elizabeth Betancourt ran against Megan Daly in that seat, and she was a 12-point Republican advantage, and she was able to raise, I think, over $400,000 in both the combined special and regular election in that seat with predominantly small dollar donations. So I mean, I think that it's highly possible for candidates who are running in very competitive Republican seats to raise a lot of money in small dollar donors. And in fact, Elizabeth Betancourt, when she ran, had the largest turnout in that seat in the history of that seat as it stands. In addition to financial contributions, what is our game plan with phone banking and in-person fundraising? I don't think we necessarily have a game plan. I mean, our game plan is we're going to wait and see how the Omicron COVID stuff goes. We're going to continue to do phone banking and try to pivot into in-person activities as much as we can, and is safe for everybody. But it's just it's going to be something that we're going to tailor based upon people's comfort on that. So how do we take control of those narratives when these are pitted against each other? I think the thing is, like, we don't feed the trolls. We don't give it, the algorithm works on engagement. So the more we engaged in those troll conversations, the more throw they actually get. So, I think that, when you see stuff like that, instead of tweeting something back, you just go to, the candidates that you like and donate $10. That's how I lower my blood pressure. I feel like, my $10 is, one more nail in the coffin for a Republican. So that's generally the approach that I take whenever I see stuff on social media that upsets me. Let's see. Cool. And then here are the resources. I think that, in the short time I have, I think that, it's great to one, change the culture about, really trying to, pivot our focus onto small dollar donors. But the key thing about small dollar donations is that it takes a little bit of work and training. There are absolutely fantastic techniques out there in order to make your small dollar donations really effective and be able to do it. In fact, we applied it both to Elizabeth Betancourt campaign and the Dawn Addis campaign in San Luis Obispo. Dawn was able to raise over $218,000 in donations under $250 when she ran against Jordan Cunningham in 2020. And a lot of that was using the same techniques that are on these resources that are on your screen now. National Democratic Training Committee has a fantastic training with regard to fundraising, online fundraising. ActBlue has amazing stuff with regard to how to optimize utilization of ActBlue. I think they're going to be speaking afterwards. It's a great tool. It's very well branded with Democratic donors. It's their Express Lane was basically pivotal in our ability to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. So instead of having to re-enter all of your data once you're in the ActBlue Express Lane, you're able to just kind of almost one-click donate to the candidates that you're used to donating to. So it's a highly potent aspect of ActBlue that makes it a very useful tool in donating. In some ways better than some of the other donation platforms that are out there, even though their percentages may be less. The beauty about ActBlue is that it's heavily Democratic branded, so that when you're reaching out to Democratic donors, people feel very secure about using ActBlue, and then they also feel very comfortable that their monies aren't going to a company that may also be fundraising for Republican candidates. So I think that's really good. And then Emily's List, obviously, the conversation earlier on was, all the stuff with regard to women donations was on point. It's so much harder, and in my experience, for women candidates to get the same level of donations. And Emily's List is one of the key organizations that makes sure that they get their early money. In fact, for those of you who don't know, Emily's stands for early money is like yeast. It makes dough rise. So early donors increase the viability of women candidates, and that viability helps provide the confidence in donors that they're investing in races that are competitive. So thanks, Bill. You've been doing a great job getting candidates in our rural areas. Love running races in rural areas. I mean, I don't think that from the Assembly's perspective, we want to cede any space in the rural areas to Republicans. So that's kind of my presentation. I'm not sure if I went over or under. I actually kind of lost track of time.
You're right on time. That was fantastic, Bill. Thank you so much. That was so much valuable information. We appreciate you joining us on a Saturday to share your expertise.
My pleasure. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Bill. We're going to go on to our next speaker, Mr. Steve Pierson. He is the lead chair of the California Democratic Party Organizing Committee. Steve is an activist, community organizer, and trainer, and is really an expert in using his background in media to help engage citizens and support Democratic campaigns. Steve is currently the host and producer of the popular podcast about politics and organizing, How We Win. So make sure you add that on Spotify and Pandora and all of it, and Apple Podcasts.
Maybe not Spotify right now. But
yeah, maybe not Spotify. Good call. Good call. So Steve, I'm going to hand it over to you to give us the national outlook for the 2022 cycle.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Nice to see some friends here on a Saturday. And I sadly missed April's presentation, but heard some great information from Bill too. So I want to join everyone in thanking him for his presentation. I do have some slides also. Oh, there we go. Perfect. So you can go to the next slide, please. Great. Yeah, perfect. Here's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to bang through these slides because I also would like to leave time for questions. Forgive me if some of this is redundant, but I wanted to kind of package this with the holistic approach to fundraising and our national outlook. So why we donate, a little talk about being careful about the shiny things, how we are strategic, what the top targets are for the midterms. It's all local. I saw some text threads about that in the chat. If we want to build sustainable victories for the long term, we have to invest locally. And then go into the experts. I want to show you guys some of the bundled portfolios for giving, which are really cool products. And then encourage people to host fundraisers and expand their giving by bringing more people into the community and building that kind of investment. Next slide, please. Inspirational quote, look out for it, from Winston Churchill. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. Next slide. Why donate? Yes, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. Obviously, we donate because we need to support the campaigns, and Bill talked about the different kinds of campaigns. He talked about early money, which is so important. Late money also makes sure the campaigns can pay their staff and support volunteers. So you all know that, but we need to support our campaigns by giving them the dough that they need. Next slide, please. And of course, you know about the Citizens United decision. I don't know if you know all of the details about what has happened since then, but dark money has flooded and captured our institutions since Citizens United. Since 2010, 7.4 billion of outside spending has come into our federal elections. And just since 2020, over $1 billion in untraceable dark money was spent. So this is what we have to overcome and fight against. And until we can reverse this and do something about the flood of dark money in our institutions right now, unfortunately, we have to raise a lot of money. And it's gratuitous and disgusting, but it's the fact of our politics. Next slide, please. As an example, in 2020, we spent almost $14.5 billion on federal elections last cycle. And it just makes me so angry and so sad when we think about where that money could be going. But, and until we elect some Democrats who have the political will to change this system and hold people accountable and get corporate money out of our politics and shine a light on the dark money, we've got to raise a lot of grassroots money to combat it. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk about be wary of the shiny things with a caveat. This talk, of course, is assuming that you don't have limitless resources to donate, and you want to be strategic about the money that you do have to spend on campaigns. There's a lot of worthy causes out there. So, a lot of candidates that attract our attention, that are deserving of our attention. So I say beware of shiny things unless you really want to. If it within your values and you feel like you need to support that candidate, absolutely. I'm not saying not to. But next slide, I'll give you a little bit more context. So there's some shiny objects that we love. The Lincoln Project is an interesting one. A bunch of former Republicans who put together a media empire to produce and broadcast videos, which were preaching to the choir. We all enjoyed them. They were really good videos. But when we look back at the research of what they did during the cycle, there's no compelling research that shows that it moved the needle for the voters that we needed to show up. Again, it was preaching to the choir. It wasn't persuading any new voters. And they raised an enormous amount of money, over $87 million and spent close to $82 million, which means they made a lot of dough. Now I've got a Shut Up Man t-shirt from the Lincoln Project that my wife bought me, and I love it. But watch out for the kind of shiny thing. And then the next example, of course, is one of my favorite people on the planet and the chair of the DNC now, who is doing an amazing job at the DNC, and that's Jamie Harrison. He broke records with $130 million raised for his Senate race. Just in the chat, does anyone remember who he was running against? Anyone know who Jamie Harrison was running against last cycle for Senate? You can type it in the chat. I'll tell you, it wasn't Mitch McConnell. Yes, it was Lindsey Graham. Thank you. It was Lindsey Graham. Of course, we all hate Lindsey Graham. Duh, exactly. And he was going on Fox, begging Fox viewers for money. It was like, talk about Schadenfreude. It was so fun to watch. But, Chair Harrison had so much money, he didn't even know what to do with it. He was running political ads in our market for that race. We were getting national political ads for Jamie Harrison, and he didn't even come close. He got really beat badly by I hate even saying his name again, Lindsey Graham. And the same thing can be said for Amy McGrath, who is a fantastic candidate, and no one hates Mitch McConnell more than I do. No one wants to see him removed. But we had a race the cycle before that when Kentucky elected a new governor, which I think fueled a lot of fire onto the possibility of being able to get rid of Mitch McConnell, because we elected a Democratic governor there. But if you look at that race, there was all the down ballot legislative races that happened there were just swept by Republicans. And it was a very unique situation because the now Democratic governor was the son of a former governor, had good name recognition. The Republican governor was wildly unpopular, even amongst Republicans. What some wise people did, when I'll talk about this when we talk about bundled funds, is they did the Ditch Mitch Fund, which included other Senate races too, and used getting rid of Mitch McConnell as a fundraising thing. But $94 million is a lot of money for a race that was pretty unsuccessful. I love all those people. Next slide, please. So, of course, when you're looking at your donations, you want to look at what causes you're passionate about, what is your mission, and then look at the campaign or organization's vision. Do they support your goals? We can be very reactive, and sometimes that's good. Like Bill said, like if you get pissed off and instead of tweeting, you want to donate $10 to a candidate, that's fine. But if you're talking about more sustained donations, if you want to build long-term political change, then we need to be thoughtful about where that money goes. Next slide. All right, so let's talk about our top targets for 2022. Next slide, please. So, of course, Bill said it, it's all about the Senate and the House holding on to our majorities. And in the case of the Senate, it would be super nice to gain a couple of seats and give Senate Manchin a little less power in the Senate. So when we look at our priorities there, this is probably nothing new for you all, but we have 3 seats that we really need to hold on to, which are going to be fights. They're going to be difficult, and that's Mark Kelly in Arizona, Raphael Warnock, Reverend Warnock in Georgia, and Catherine Cortez Masto in Nevada. So right in our neighbors, we've got 2 of them in Arizona and Nevada, and good opportunities to help hold on to those seats. Next slide, please. And then, as I said, we really want to gain some more seats. So we could do stuff like, maybe eliminate the filibuster and pass some actual legislation through the Senate. So There's an open seat in North Carolina. Pat Toomey is retiring in that swing state that helped us deliver Biden. There's also an open seat in Pennsylvania where Richard Burr is retiring. The last 3 federal elections were decided by 2.5 percentage points. So that's a tight one too, and a good opportunity. And then Ron Johnson is still running, but he's the only GOP senator running in a state that Biden won. So boy, it'd be nice to get him out of there. So those are our 6 main Senate races that we're looking at. Next slide, please. When I say we, it's the royal we. A lot of different organizations are doing different things. There's also some races to watch. Of course, who wouldn't love to get rid of Marco Rubio in Florida? We've been knocking on Florida's door for a long time, and Val Demings is a very exciting candidate. Someone definitely worthy of your donations. Runs the risk of being a little shiny, so we want to be strategic. But we'll watch as that race develops and see what those numbers look like. And then in New Hampshire, Maggie Hassan could have a tougher race on her hands as well to hold on to that seat. So we're going to keep an eye on that one too. And the open seat in Ohio is another possible opportunity. So these are sort of what we're keeping we're tracking right now, keeping our eyes on. Next slide. And then this is pulled straight from a few days ago at the Cook Political Report. I encourage you all to check back because these ratings change. But these are just the toss-up races. Now, there's some other competitive races that are, lean Democrat or lean Republican. But I just wanted to share the toss-up congressional races with you today. And of course, we see over on the Republican toss-up side, the first 3 are right here in our own backyard. California Democrats, we have some work to do. We need to flip those seats, and I know that we can. So if you don't check Cook Political Report, that's a great place to double check and see where the races are close and could possibly use resources. Next slide. And there's also some national orgs that I want to talk about. Full disclosure, I was a former staffer at Swing Left, but these organizations are all organizing year round and need resources to do that. I especially love Run for Something because they have turned into a really great organization for getting younger people to run for office in some of these down ballot races that are so important. Republicans are so good at investing in these down ballot races and building their bench, and we need to match that kind of investment. So I recommend them very, very much. And Sister District focuses on, again, some of the down ballot races, and Indivisible is now organizing all over the place, as you know, both electorally and with some action-based advocacy as well. It's a great question, Jenny. Let me answer your question right now. Oh, that's a direct message to me. Okay, Jenny. Jenny direct messaged me a question. How about contest every race? And 100%, we should be doing that. And we'll talk about some of our bundled fundraising products that sort of do that too. My encouragement is to invest in local organizations that are on the ground and building up those local races. Because, like, I don't have a lot of money to spend. I want to donate where it's going to really matter the most. We have once again, sadly, the most important election of our lives coming up in the midterms. I mean, the repercussions if we lose the Senate or lose the majority in the House would be absolutely devastating for our very democracy. So we do need to focus on where we can win and also invest locally in where we can build long-term progressive change. So that's thank you for that question. It's a perfect segue into the next slide. There's a nice picture. Basically, investing in community organizations is, to me, so pivotal and so important because those are the people that are on the ground year round doing the work. It's really the people in this Zoom right now, right? People who show up all the time. And political organizations, political campaigns are very important to invest in. But, they do fly in right before an election, raise a bunch of money and leave, and they don't always invest in the communities that they are running in. So if we want to build sustained, long-term progressive change, which I know we all do, then investing in community-based organizations is pivotal. Next slide, please. And state Democratic parties, duh, right? We want to invest in the California Democratic Party. We want to divest from corporate money in the California Democratic Party. That means getting out there and raising grassroots money. And, the same goes for parties all across the country. So if there's states that are really important, and we just saw some of them with those Senate races and congressional races, think about investing in those state parties. I can talk about last cycle, the Wisconsin Democrats and Ben Wickler, the chair of that party, did amazing things with important state Supreme Court races there and legislative races there that really helped protect what is happening, the assault that's happening in Wisconsin. So state Democratic parties, duh, great place to invest. I know you know this already, but it's always good to mention it again. Next slide, please. All right, bundled fundraising. I'm going to zip through this because I don't want to take up too much time. There's a lot of strategy that goes into fundraising. Shortfalls. Is a candidate at a deficit? Do they need more money? What's the win number? Where's the spread, the swing spread, depending on incumbency and registration numbers and other factors. Who's on the grounds, the organizations like I talked about, the community-based organizations versus the party, and how are they investing in volunteers, bang for the buck. Where can a little bit of money do a lot? It's a lot to think about, and it's hard for us to know that, especially in different states that are on our own. So next slide, please. So there are these great funds that have emerged recently that are bundled, and I wanted to highlight a few of them for you. My favorite, no bias, but seriously, is Blueprint by Swing Left. It's basically like donating, like building a stock portfolio, but of candidates and organizations. They donate to organizations that are involved in fighting, bad gerrymanders and fighting fights against redistricting, problems, and voter suppression organizations, organizations on the ground who are running volunteer campaigns. And of course, they know where the races are that need the money the most, so they can shift, and you get quarterly reports from them. Very, very cool. Also, I have Vote Save the Senate, which is from Crooked Media. There's a number of organizations that are doing bundled like Senate campaigns where you can donate money that's spread out to the different Senate campaigns. Again, the advantage of doing it that way is they actually adjust the campaigns depending on who needs the most money. So they can add someone or divert money to someone if they really need it, and you don't have to think about it. And then the Movement Voter Project is an organization that focuses on fundraising for organizations led by people of color and women, and they're a really cool organization for you to check out and donate to as well. Next slide, please. Lastly, I want to encourage people to host a fundraiser. Next slide. Obviously, grassroots fundraisers are ways to get more people involved, and instead of just donating monies, you're bringing, building that community and bringing more people who are invested, not just financially, but holistically into the work that we're doing. And that's what we always want to do. We want to bring them into the Democratic Party. We want to show people that the Democrats are active and passionate and in a community that they want to be part of. So I encourage people to do grassroots fundraisers. Some of those funds like Blueprint have giving circles where you can create a group that's all contributing to the fund, and that's a good way to do it. And of course, we want to do some more grassroots fundraisers for our own party, which is going to be focused not just here in California, but on some of these important federal races as well. So I talked fast. Next slide. Oh yeah, one last thing. I added this at the last minute because sometimes we do have to be reactive and give with our heart. And right now is that time with what's happening in Ukraine. I just wanted to highlight that care.org has set up an emergency fund for the people of Ukraine. So I would encourage that you check that out and donate if you can. All right, next slide. Thank you so much. Shameless pitch for the podcast. You can check out howwewinpod.com wherever you get your podcasts, or at our website. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
If you have any questions for Steve, go ahead and put them in the chat.
I mean, I was very thorough, so maybe you don't.
It was a lot of information people might be digesting. It was super helpful.
I hope so. It was a lot. Judith is asking me if it's recorded, but this is being recorded, yes.
Yes, it is. Awesome. Any questions? Last call for questions. No, I think you were very thorough. I think you covered everything we need to know throughout the entire nation. That was great. Thank you so much.
And
Awesome.
15 seconds or less. All right. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate it.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Steve. Thanks for, again, joining us on a Saturday. We really appreciate it. You've heard a lot about the different democratic priorities we have at the local level, at the state level, national as well. It's a lot of information to think about. So we wanted to provide you with a worksheet that will help you hone in on your donation priorities. So if we can please share the slides, and if we can please share the link to the donor worksheet in the chat. We're going to drop a link in the chat. It's a PDF file that you can download and print. If we were in person, obviously we would have copies for you all to start filling out right now, but hope you'll take the PDF, print it at your leisure, and start filling that in and starting your 2022 donation plan. So next slide, please. At the top of the worksheet, you'll see there's a section that asks you, what are my top 3 issues as a voter in 2022? So this is a really good question, a really good jumping off point, and a way to get you centered and thinking about what really matters to you. So these are, if you want to, prioritize environmental issues, if you really want to prioritize supporting younger candidates, that would kind of be where you put those overall themes in at this top part of the question. And the next question that the sheet asks you is, what is my contribution? Oh, sorry, can we go back? What is my contribution budget for the year? So again, this is all to get us in the mindset of how do we start long-term investing in the campaigns and candidates that we care about. And so a budget is always helpful. A budget helps us think about the year overall. It helps think about where we can start putting those investments in more long-term. So once you have all those figured out, then we'll start getting into the nitty-gritty of where you want to donate at various levels. So we have a section that asks, what in-state campaigns do I want to support? So this is where you would put some of the campaigns that Bill Wong talked about, campaigns on the state, at the state level, at the Senate, at the state assembly. You're going to go ahead and list what campaigns you'd like to support, the level that you'd like to support them at, and go ahead and add them up for your in-state total. Same thing for the out-of-state campaigns, all of the things that Steve Pierson talked about and other races that you may have heard of. Where do you want to make an impactful donation throughout the nation? Again, you're going to write down some of the campaigns that you really care about, put in the amount that you're comfortable spending, and then go ahead and total that up. And there's only 3 lines on this worksheet, but feel free if you want to list more state campaigns, if you want to list less, it's really up to you. This is just a guideline, just a way to get you start thinking again about long-term investments. And go ahead and let's go to the next slide. And then at the bottom of the first page, you will see what local campaigns do I want to support. So this section will probably be the one that requires the most research and initiative from you. It's going to require you to really look at what's going on in your local level, ask friends in politics to try and figure out who's running that, again, is in line with those top 3 issues that you listed at the top of that spreadsheet. It's difficult to find the information sometimes, but this is also one of the most impactful areas because, as we've heard from our speakers today, local campaigns often have really limited budgets. So the amount that you donate to these folks is super helpful in their ability to get their message out. And if we go on to the next page. Perfect. So on page 2 of the worksheets, it asks you what political or advocacy groups do I want to support? We took the liberty here at the California Democratic Party to include ourselves in the top part of this section. And we really want you to donate to the California Democratic Party because we are the organization that is going throughout the state to get Dems elected top and bottom throughout the ballots. And we are also a huge source of volunteer manpower for swing states and races in other areas. So what you might not know is the California Democrats made up nearly 40% of the volunteer base in swing states and made a lot of calls for Biden and Harris that were super crucial. So it's that kind of manpower that we bring here at the California Democratic Party. So hope you will support us. Hope you will consider us in your 2022 donor plan. But beyond that, this is where you would put organizations, environmental justice groups, reproductive rights groups, any other advocacy or organization groups that you would like to support. Next slide, please. And then you'll see a section on the spreadsheet where we can start to put together all of our totals. So again, all of the in-state campaigns that you would want to support, you would find that total, fill it in this grand total section, add it all up, and then you'll get your grand total for the year. We also left a section in here for miscellaneous, and this would be for if you have, a friend runs for office, or another friend asks you to donate to a campaign they're supporting. We're all in politics. I feel like we all get asked those things all the time, so it's good to have that money set aside just in case. So again, you'll take all of your totals from the various other sections of the spreadsheet, bring them all into this part, and you will have your grand total. You'll want to make sure that your grand total is somewhat in line with your contribution budget for the year. If it's not, maybe go back, adjust in places that you can, and just want to make sure again that we're thinking long-term, this is what I want to spend for the year. These are the things that matter to me. I want to spend it on these things. And then go ahead to the last slide. Great. And then we just put in here a suggested contribution schedule for you. Again, so you're not, having to spend all your money in 1 month, so that we're breaking it out throughout the year to make it a little bit easier. You would take your grand total, divide it in fourths, and then do about 25% of the contributions that you want to make in March, April of this year. Again, do another 25% in May, June. Hopefully you would have made all of your contributions by October of 2022. That way the campaigns that you're giving to have the opportunity to spend it before Election Day. That is your donor worksheet for 2022. Again, encourage you to print it out, fill it out at your leisure when you can. That resource will be available for whenever you need it. Are there any questions in the chat about the worksheet? hopefully it's pretty straightforward. You're able to fill it out when you can. Let me see if there's anything. Nope, I don't see anything. That's great. I hope it's a super valuable resource for you all. Great. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to our next presenters, our final presenters of our program today. Oh, Bill is waving at me. Just opened a snail mail from Rusty for the State Party Victory Fund. Why does it do? So that, oh yes, so the State Party Victory Fund, that is us. It's run through the DNC. So essentially they cover the costs of the mail to get it out, and then whatever comes in comes to us. Yeah. not computing. I can call you after, Bill, and chat about it with you. But great, so I'm going to hand it over to Kat Ioannidis, I hope I'm saying that name right, and Lisa Tran with ActBlue. And they have a little presentation for you on ActBlue, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. It's a great resource for grassroots donating. So I'll hand it over to you ladies.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Camille. This conference has been so inspiring. I've been listening in the background, and I'm genuinely feeling so energized about the potential to build more small dollar donor power in our state. Really love that last section with the donor worksheet as well. We have a slide deck that I can either share my screen with, or India, are you able to share it? Awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. So hi, everyone. My name is Kat. I work with our state and local campaigns and candidates in ActBlue. I'm so excited to share this virtual space with all of you. Again, I've been listening to this conference all day. I wish more state parties did this. This is incredible. And I'm going to kick it over to my fabulous colleague, Lisa, to introduce herself and also talk a little bit about ActBlue.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Kat. My name is Lisa, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm based in Sacramento, and I work with Northern California candidates on their ActBlue grassroots fundraising programs. Our job is to help candidates build out their digital fundraising programs that are powered by grassroots donors like you. As you just learned in this planning session, donor planning is so critical and a big part of the grassroots donor movement. And, I'm sure we all have made financial plans before, whether if you have a retirement account or, saving up for a trip to Yosemite with your best friends or your family, or even sticking to a grocery budget. Financial planning is important in order to reach your goals. And in our role, working with campaigns on making their fundraising plans, I can tell you that it's very important for campaigns to make plans so they can hit their goals. The thing about campaign fundraising plans is that they are stronger and more reliable when you communicate your plan to them. Setting up reoccurring contributions that campaigns can rely on as a stream of revenue allows them to make long-term strategic decisions and ultimately plan better over time. Our mission here at ActBlue, is to build technology and infrastructure for democratic campaigns and progressive aligned causes. The tech that we build connects causes trying to raise money and people trying to donate. And the more accessible that process is, the more a cause is connected to grassroots power. A critical component when it comes to grassroots fundraising movement is all of you at this conference. ActBlue, we understand that fundraising, just like organizing in its best form, is a grassroots effort. It is in our mission to make it easier to raise and also easy to give for the causes closest to our hearts. Not only does the grassroots donor movement democratize power and make candidates more accountable to the people they represent, it also unlocks who can run for office in the first place. When you can rely on a scalable small dollar fundraising program, having access to a wealthy network no longer is a prerequisite to run for office. Next slide, please. So here we're going to show a quick video of some of grassroots donors' testimonials about why they decided to donate. And I just want to keep in mind that this video was filmed in 2020, in the 2020 election cycle, and that was actually a big year for small dollar fundraising. India, if you could play the video.
Why am I an active Democratic donor this season? It's real simple.
I have 2 sisters with disabilities.
Because great things have small beginnings.
Because even though I am a low-income person, I believe that this country is still mine.
Because I am retired and money is finite.
I believe our country needs a desperate change.
As a military veteran of over 27 years, our democracy is at stake.
I've been involved in grassroots politics for over 50 years, and this is how I can support candidates and issues that matter to me.
And I need a president that will help people like my sisters, and this president is not it.
So that's why I donate.
I am a small dollar donor.
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 ActBlue makes that so easy.
Amazing. You can hear the passion in their voices. These small dollar donors were able to give to make their voices heard and also power grassroots campaigns. Next slide, please. With that being said, we want to hear from all of you in the audience. Put in the chat and tell us why you're a grassroots donor. And while everyone is entering their response in the chat, I'll definitely pass the mic over to my colleague, Kat.
Awesome. If we could go to the next slide, that would be awesome. Cool. So grassroots fundraising is growing, as you can see, and it's really fundamentally changing our politics. And I think sometimes we can forget about just how transformational this shift has been in our space. Last cycle, all Democratic presidential candidates rejected corporate PAC money, and we're seeing massive national campaigns powered entirely by grassroots donors, real people like you and me. So it's fundamentally changing who can run for office and also who politicians are accountable to. This movement has fundamentally changed how candidates talk about fundraising. We hear candidates talk about the low average donor amount, the number of individual contributions they've received, and really just talking about grassroots fundraising from an organizing perspective. One of the most exciting things about the growth of the grassroots donor movement for me is that it has a unique ability to harness energy at political inflection points and then channel that emotion into meaningful change long term. Personally, I know for me, the day that Justice Ginsburg passed away was really heartbreaking and terrifying, and millions of people across the country felt the same way and channeled those emotions by donating to Senate candidates and community abortion funds across the country. And that day was actually ActBlue's single biggest day in terms of donations processed. Dems raised over $91 million that day. So a really great example of the transformational change that the small dollar movement can harness. So again, this movement is fundamentally changing politics, and it's propelled by people like you and me. We're making politics more accessible, and we're changing who politicians are accountable to. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. Awesome. So we've heard a lot about this conference, about the power of donating to candidates and causes. ActBlue is really unique in that we have a team of incredible engineers who constantly build, test, and optimize our tools to make them as donor-friendly and campaign-friendly as possible. As a result, ActBlue is the trusted digital fundraising platform for tens of thousands of campaigns and causes and millions of donors. So you can easily log into your ActBlue account and set up donations for your favorite local county party, your favorite local school board member, the California Democratic Party, or even your favorite presidential candidate as well. So it really is this super convenient one-stop shop to donate to everyone that you want to support. All your contribution records in ActBlue are conveniently in one place. You can just log in and automatically find people to donate to. I don't know about y'all, but I have so many different passwords across the internet. So it's nice just to have all my information and everyone I'm contributing to in one streamlined dashboard. We also have something called Express Lane, where if you have given to an ActBlue candidate before, all your information is automatically saved, so you don't have to shuffle around and pull out a card. You can just donate in one click. And we also make it really easy for you to give through Apple Pay, Google Pay, PayPal, and even Venmo, which is new and pretty transformative. We also make it really easy to sustain your causes and candidates with your reoccurring contribution. For just $5 a month for a local candidate or for a local county party, that can have a really big impact, and that's the cost of a cup of coffee, right? So reoccurring donations are really powerful. And again, you can manage those all through your ActBlue dashboard. And Steve talked about this a little bit earlier, but we believe that the grassroots donor movement is in fact a movement, and the best donors are also fundraisers. So ActBlue makes it really easy for you to raise for candidates and causes that you're passionate about through community forums. You can select different candidates and causes that you want to contribute to. Every year for my birthday, I'll do a community forum with different candidates, local parties, and causes that I'm really passionate about, and encourage my friends to donate through that. And another great thing about ActBlue is we have a really incredible donor support team that is right there to help you if you need a refund or if you have any confusion navigating our platform overall. And we can, and now, sorry, and now I'm going to talk a little bit about opening an ActBlue Express account. I'm sure many of you have given to ActBlue before, but when you're ready to support a local candidate, all you have to do is sign into ActBlue Express, search for your candidate in our directory and select how much you want to give, and then fill out that payment info. And I am going to drop a link right now where you can open an ActBlue Express account. Again, this is super convenient. If you don't have one, just follow that link. And I'm also going to drop a link to the California Democratic Party's ActBlue form. And again, I encourage all of you to give $5 a month and integrate giving to the party into your donor plan that Camille went over, because we really want to support all the incredible work our party is doing this cycle. And I am going to kick it back to Lisa to wrap up this presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kat, for sharing these amazing features that we offer here at ActBlue, and also how to get started with us. Here in California, we also have a team that specializes in state and local, federal, and even ballot initiative staff. I'm going to go ahead and drop our contact information in the chat. Feel free to connect with us anytime, and we can work with you to help build your planning, your donor planning. With that being said, on behalf of ActBlue, thank you so much, Camille, India, California Democratic Party staff, and also everyone on this virtual Zoom chat that tuned in today. Thank you for your time and also listening, learning about small dollar fundraising.
Awesome. And I'm seeing a few questions in the chat that we can briefly go into. ActBlue is increasingly becoming available in more local jurisdictions, particularly in California. So I would definitely encourage you to check this cycle. We have so many local candidates running and using our tools this cycle. That's where we've grown the most. So we're constantly expanding and bringing our tools to local candidates and campaigns as well. So feel free to email me after this and we can definitely set you up with an account. Love that. I love to see that someone created an ActBlue account during the call. That's fantastic. Well, thank you all so much. And again, thank you to Camille and India and everyone. This conference has been so incredible. Donate to the California Democratic Party, and thank you for having us.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Lisa. And thank you all again for being here, for sharing your Saturday with us. I'm really glad we were able to share all these resources with all of you, our grassroots donors. And so with that, I am going to hand the mic back over to Controller April Verrett for some final remarks.
Thank you, Camille. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. I know there's lots of ways we can choose to spend our Saturday afternoon, but spending it, figuring out how, come on, Bill, you got other stuff you could do. Bill Monroe is one of my favorite faces on Zoom, always so expressive. But you decided to spend this Saturday talking about making plans on how we build more power in California to deliver for the 10 million Democrats in our state, but also to deliver for all of us that call California home. And we'll continue to lead the way as a state party for all of the Americans that call this country home. And I would be remiss if I don't say, let us continue to be a beacon of democracy and stand for freedom and justice around the world. And my heart and my prayers are with the people of the Ukraine today, as I'm sure so are many of you all. And so in parting, if you have not already signed up for CADEM 2022, do it before you turn off your computer. If you have not already enrolled to be a trailblazer, do it before you disconnect from your iPhone or your iPad. We cannot win if we don't have the resources to win, right? That is what this afternoon's conversation has been about. It is going to take the power of grassroots donors. Every single dollar, $7, $25, whatever you can give at a time, whatever you can raise. We gotta figure out how we put our resources where they need to be for every single election across the ballot. So let's do this, Democrats. Together we can win, not just in 22, but beyond. Thank you to our amazing staff that put this together today. Camille, India, all of you, thank you, thank you, thank you. To Bill Wong and to Steve Pierson and to our sponsors at ActBlue, thank you, thank you, thank you. And have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.